Hey, how's it going, everybody? Shaun here with another edition of Shaun Solo, and today I want to talk a little bit about Battlefield 1. I've been playing it for about a week and a couple days. I got the early enlisters edition, so I've had it since last Tuesday. So a week. I've had it for exactly a week. A little bit of extra time than some people, less time than others. So if you were a prominent influencer, I think you got it, or if you were part of EA's early access program, like their Origin early access program, I want to say I think you got it even earlier than that. I think you got it the Friday before the early enlisters edition. I don't know, all sorts of tomfoolery going on with like how they sell and market games these days because they are trying to make up for the fact that games are more expensive to develop. These big AAA titles, so they kind of try to like incentivize you in weird ways or maybe trick you into buying these special editions and early enlister editions and all that stuff. Because basically, the early enlister edition also really got you. It got you 5 battle packs, which are the things that you get for whenever you upgrade. It's like this new thing that you see a lot in games, like these chests type things where you get items. Well, it's not totally new. I think it started. Battlefield has been doing it since the last game. I believe Battlefield 4. I don't think it was in Battlefield 3. I mean, I could be wrong on that, but I don't remember. That's been a while. It's been a minute since I've played Battlefield 3, so I don't know. But yeah, and you get some few skins, and you get to play it early, and that like costs you an extra $20. I think you got a few guns too, but it was all kind of superfluous stuff. The only I think gun that was actually like kind of a cheat or a bonus or whatever was the Lawrence of Arabia sniper rifle for the scout class, which is like this scopeless sniper rifle basically, which was super powerful. And that's the only I feel like that's really the only advantage I've really seen. Although like after it came out on Friday, I've seen a lot less people using it than I did the first few days because it was new. Everybody had it. Everybody wanted to try it out. Like it was a cool thing. I've put a lot of time into the multiplayer. My brothers and I and a few of their friends, we've been totally going crazy on multiplayer. For me, it's been a lot, anyways. I want to say like I'm at I think level 40 or so, which I know some people that's not that impressive, but for me, I mean it's probably like at least in the past week, it's probably been about 25-30 hours of playing, give or take. Just the multiplayer. I played it like about half of the campaign so far, which I'm not normally a campaign guy. Like I don't normally give a shit about the campaign in these games. Like Battlefield 3 and 4, I played about halfway through each of those campaigns, and then just never went back. Like kind of unremarkable. I feel the same way about most Call of Duty things. I mean, it's the first person problem of if it doesn't have a compelling narrative, it's just a shooting gallery essentially, and that's not a ton of fun for me. Like I don't find it very compelling. So if the narrative isn't like really good or really special, then I kind of don't care about it. Although I've heard some good things about Titanfall 2's campaign, so I might check that out this weekend. I might rent that from the old Red Box, but that's neither here nor there. So Battlefield 1, what are my impressions of it? Well, like I said, I've played it quite a bit, so I guess that means I like it. Although in fairness, I played the shit out of Mafia 3, and I thought that was pretty mediocre. But Battlefield 1 has kind of exceeded my expectations. I was really blown away. Like, really blown away the first 15 hours or so. I mean, just in constant amazement of, like, how well it plays, how much fun it is. Because there was concern about, like, you go back to World War I, how is that going to work, like, mechanically, or just, like, how is it going to work in a modern shooter, because it still has to tick some boxes. It still has to be fun for a modern audience, and you can't have just like single bullet, rifles and stuff like that where you're constantly, like it has to be a little more fast paced. So they kind of have their cake and eat it too a little bit because they have these things called experimental weapons, things that like really didn't exist at the time, just to kind of fill in the back gaps and give you some kind of like automatic weapons, so you're not totally back in the days of yore. Although, like, I find myself not really engaging too much with the... I've been doing a lot of medic lately. I started with Assault, because Assault class has kind of become the new Engineer class, in the sense that, like, you got automatic weapons, and you have things that can take on tanks and cars and stuff. That's the biggest difference, I feel like, in this one. Like, tanks are a big deal when you get one. a lot bigger deal in the multiplayer than they have been in the past, just because there's less ways to take them out. And it feels a lot more, I guess, quote unquote, realistic in that sense. But you really have to work as a squad. It still has that great Battlefield kind of objective focused gameplay, where even if you're not the type of player that can, rack up 50, 60 kills a match, like, you can still have fun. Because I'm somewhere in the middle. Like, I'm like a 25, 30 kills a match kind of guy, right? So I'm good enough to be competitive, but not good enough to blow anybody's mind. Um, and it really rewards like a squad. It's been so much. This is the first Battlefield I've actually played a lot with other people. Back, I used to play Battlefield 3 with my brother Ryan like occasionally, but we didn't always link up like to be able to play it together. And this is the first time I've actually had like a full squad, people on microphones. We all know each other. Everybody's comfortable, and we just have a really good time. And honestly, it's super rewarding in that way. I mean, I guess just like you could say, most I think multiplayer focused games are more rewarding if you play it with a bunch of people you know. I feel like it's more essential. It feels more essential than it has in the past, even for a Battlefield game, because really one good squad can really change the tide of war, so to speak. Like, because there's a new mode called Operations, which is our new favorite. Like in terms of the people I play with, we like it's kind of like almost like the equivalent of playing ranked in like something like what's it called, Overwatch, or we've come off of playing Rainbow Six. Like this is the same people I play Rainbow Six Siege with. And like so when we want to get serious, I guess in quotes, we go play Operations. And when you have a solid squad that's like everything's clicking and everybody's doing really well and everybody's kind of fulfilling their roles, you can really change things like drastically. Even just one squad can do that. So it does, because like there are times where like you will be a little bit frustrated, where it does seem like people are like playing with their like chickens with their heads cut off. So if you're like in the mood to take it seriously, that's frustrating. But I think the game modes other than Operations, even though I think Operations is awesome, which is this kind of wave based thing where you got to take over these sectors by getting these control points simultaneously. There's anywhere from 1 to 3 control points you got to take at the same time. And be able to hold them, and it's a lot of fun, and it takes a lot of like almost like psychic coordination, where you're like, okay, and you look at your map before you spawn and you're like, all right, we got a bunch of guys taking B, they're about to take B, I see some other squads and my squad's like heading to A, I'm gonna spawn on my squad at A, we're gonna try to get that while they're taking B, so simultaneously you can get it at the same time, so you don't have to kind of hold it for a long time, because it things change really fast. And it adds like I don't know, just add. It's really fun. I can't say enough good things about Operations. Operations is a game maker for me. Like, it made the game extra special. It's really kind of it was the game mode that blew my socks off, I suppose. Like, I had expectations for Battlefield 1. I expected to like it. I have been a fan of the series. Going back to Bad Company and Bad Company 2. I've been playing, the multiplayer for those games since then, basically. And this one, I feel like it's cream of the crop. I don't know what kind of alchemy they're working with, what kind of necromancy, kind of wizard they made a deal with, but they have, in my opinion, they've really delivered with Battlefield 1 in a way that I have not felt this satisfied playing a first-person shooter in a long time, or like especially a cooperative kind of squad-based one, other than Rainbow Six Siege. Rainbow Six Siege was another really pleasant surprise, so that's kind of where I'm coming from, I suppose, in terms of my enjoyment. And this kind of gives me, like, Rainbow Six Siege is, it's a very different kind of game, obviously, but this is like a good alternative to that, because I still plan on playing Siege. I'm glad to have a new game, though, to be honest with you, get a little break. And then, this weekend also was the open beta for the Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. And coming off of playing Battlefield 1 and then going right into the Infinite Warfare beta, that beta just, I don't know if it was because I was judging it relative to Battlefield 1 or because I had just played like 30 hours of Battlefield 1 or whatever, but going into the Infinite Warfare beta was like rough. Not because this is a Call of Duty thing where you just fucking end up, like, when you first get into the game, you just die over and over again, playing, like, the team deathmatch of the domination modes. and before you like know the maps and where to go and where people are most likely to come from and etc. Like there isn't a lot of options. I thought the maps were the few maps that they gave in the beta were terrible. I thought like the gameplay wasn't very good either, and I like that's and I'm trying to be as objective as possible here, because I've enjoyed Call of Duty as a series as like an alternative to Battlefield. It was like when I didn't want to play seriously, or if I wanted to kind of like just play an arcadey, really turn my brain off type of game, I would go play the Call of Duty games. I don't think it's. I haven't really enjoyed the games since, I would say, at least the multiplayer anyway, since about Black Ops 2. Thought Black Ops 3 was kind of disappointing. Advanced Warfare, that kept me for a while, actually. I thought Advanced Warfare was kind of a underappreciated game, actually, relative to the Call of Duty series, anyways. I kind of enjoyed that. But if I were going to go for an arcadey kind of game, because I also played the beta for Titanfall 2 when that was available, and I would say Titanfall 2 would be the arcadey shooter I would get as an alternative to Battlefield 1. And like I said, I might actually check that out. I might actually pick that up. I don't know. I'm debating. I'm going to buy a game this weekend. It's either the Skyrim Special Edition for the PS4, which I don't know why I would do that, because I could just get it on the PC and have all the mods and all that stuff, but for some reason, I just like having things on the console. I like sitting at my TV and playing games. So I might actually get that because I love Skyrim. And I was really disappointed in Fallout 4. So maybe I'd be down for some updated Skyrim shit on the TV anyways. So I'm either going to get that or Titanfall 2. And I think I'm going to go with Skyrim because Titanfall, because I don't think any of my squad mates or whatever, we're not going to be jumping into anything else together anytime soon. So probably end up buying Titanfall 2, I guess, sometime in the near future, but I'll probably just rent it to play the campaign, because I have heard good things about the campaign. It's a cool like sci-fi action campaign, so I'm definitely into that. I'm definitely going to I want to check that out for sure. But yeah, going back to Battlefield, because I just kind of had a little side tangent there. Going back to Battlefield 1, let's talk about the campaign a little bit. Yeah, because I keep talking about the multiplayer, but it's kind of the other things that you've seen. The other game modes and stuff is Team Deathmatch, Domination, Conquest, classic Battlefield modes. The one thing I will say, I think the multiplayer maps are fucking incredible, and I think they're super well designed, and it really takes advantage of like the era that it takes place in, and the kind of like multi-tier kind of from a sense of geography in terms of like, having highs and lows and like each area kind of being specific to itself. But like, it's cool. Like, I can't remember. I'm struggling to remember what the name of it is because I'm terrible at like map names. But there's one, I believe you're in it. Well, there's one in Italy where you're in a bombed out town. That's amazing. That's an amazing map. There's also one where you're kind of like up in the mountains, which is probably my favorite one. But it just has like all these, because you're up in the mountains, so there's all these different levels of terrain and points of attack, and it always just feels fresh. And I feel like that's something that Battlefield's always been pretty good at, but this one especially, like I've been blown away. Like honestly, just been super blown away. I cannot recommend it enough, just based on what I've played so far, and also it's not broken. So good on you, EA. They released a game that is not broken as fuck, so thank you for that. Thank you for not making me feel like I wasted my money. That's the best I can give you, EA. I expect you to just, release functional games, and you've lived up to that promise. So thank you. The campaign. Like I said, I've only played about half of it. And I think it's interesting, and there's stuff I really like about it. I think it really does a great job of kind of imparting to you the weight of war, and especially this kind of warfare specifically, because this is one of the last. There was something particularly brutal about this war. It was kind of like half in, half out in terms of like quote unquote modern warfare and the old style trench warfare. Like it was that transition between like the way they used to do it in like the UK and stuff, having like just people like walking towards each other in a line and shooting each other like idiots. from the Civil War. We kind of ended with that, and they kind of went away from that a little bit in the Civil War, and then the World War One. It was just kind of that in between, and it was a really brutal war, and it was muddy, and it was nasty, and it was the first time chemical warfare had been in there, and like plane bombings and shit like that. It was the first time, and people just weren't like. I can imagine, like, it does a good job of like putting you in the shoes of soldiers, like not knowing quite how to live in this reality. And it's got kind of an interesting framing device where it does these vignettes, so you're kind of experiencing it from as broad of a spectrum as you can from all the different countries that were involved in World War One, and some really interesting little mini stories. I will say the thing that I feel like at least the few I've played so far, the few campaigns, they overstay their welcome just a tad bit. Like, it's always like just like a mission too long or too kind of antiquated in the sense of just like, hold this point and kill people until we tell you to stop. And it's pretty kind of, you kind of do a variation of that on pretty much all the missions I've played so far. And it almost works as basically a tutorial for the multiplayer, because it's teaching you, kind of get hands-on with all the different kinds of weapons and vehicles and planes and stuff like that through the campaign. So if you actually play the campaign before you were to do the multiplayer, you might be actually at a slight advantage going in. A slight advantage, nothing crazy or anything, but yeah. But I'm enjoying it for the most part. I don't know if I'm gonna rush to finish it, honestly, because like I said, it's better than I expected it to be. Like the opening of the game, like when you go from the first mission for that movie, like when you loaded up the game and it threw you into that first mission, like fucking incredible. Like it really made you feel like the weight of just the idea of war and this machine that it is, how it just eats up people, just eats up kids and young men. And it was the first time I've played one of these games where I really felt that. Felt like the weight of it. How like you just fucking die. Like people just the arbitrary nature of death, and I don't know. I'm probably not explaining myself very well, but I felt like it was very effective. As it goes on, it kind of wears thin because you just kind of get desensitized a little bit, because it does the same thing over and over again. So there you go. But like I said, pleasantly I thought it was better than I would expect any of these campaigns to be, honestly, and I was pleasantly surprised that it like evoked emotion at all, because most of the time it doesn't. Usually, like the last one I played, the last like first person shooter, like one of these military games I played, the plot for, or the campaign rather, was Black Ops 3. I red boxed it and played the campaign, and that campaign induces more eye rolling than enjoyment. Like it's just, I mean, it's okay that it's ridiculous, but it's just, there's some really even ethically weird shit in that game. So, which I kind of I might do a video on that someday. I don't know, maybe write about it or something, because that's like, it's got like that campaign has like a weird, and I've never seen anybody take that angle. It has like this weird ethical problems about some of the shit that happens, but I gotta really like I'd either have to replay it or go watch like a YouTube video of the campaign story to really kind of get a refresher on some of the stuff that happens there, to really be able to get into it again. But I remember when I played it, like having such a strong opinion. I wish I had done a video about it at the time, but I just didn't get around to it for some reason. But anyways, yeah, I think that's going to about do it. Like, I don't really know what else I could say other than I think Battlefield 1 is great so far. I understand, like, if the servers go to shit, like, I could upload this and the servers could just fall apart or something. They could update it and fundamentally break the game. But as of today, October 25th, 2016, it's a great game. Worth every penny, and I was happy to pay, or not, well, I didn't pay for it actually, somebody bought it for me. But I would have paid for the early enlisters edition and been happy about it and not been bitter about like paying that extra $20, because you really do feel the blood, sweat, and tears in this thing. I mean, like a few days after I bought it, I bought the premium pass, or not bought it, started playing it rather. I bought the premium pass. I was just like, yeah, that was it. I'm in for the next year and a half or so. next couple of years probably. I mean, if they support it in the way they supported Battlefield 4, which a lot of the Battlefield 4 support was like a mea culpa, or mea culpa, of like a apologies for like that it was broken for so long. I mean, not so broken that you couldn't play it, but it had problems for a while. But they supported that game with new maps and updates and shit for a very long time. So I'm crossing my fingers and hoping they do the same thing with Battlefield 1. And I'm hoping I'm already thinking about like the possibilities for the DLC for some map packs. Like I can't wait. I just can't wait to like experience more of this game. And yeah, I'll probably end up playing it as soon as I get done with this because I'm in. I'm in the bag for it, yo. I like it. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for me. I'm Shaun, and I will talk to you next time I got something to talk about.